While interacting with business analysts across globe, I have observed one clear shift. Business analysis is evolving from traditional to AI-enabled role. But the question is, what about domain expertise? Earlier, domain was seen as a blocker, which is still very subjective and debatable. But today, with AI, the expectation is little different. It is definitely recommend to get started, learn top 5 to 6 domain to stand out from the rest and become top 1% business analyst. And that's exactly why we are going to explore top domains and expectation in detail part of this series. So I had a very insightful conversation with Kshitij Sinha, who started as a business analyst, grew into product owner, and now working as product manager at Merck. So in this conversation, we're going to break down how pharma domain actually works, what skills truly matter, and how AI is shaping future for business analyst. So if you're serious about your BA career, I'm very sure this discussion is going to add a lot of value and your thought process. Let's get started. Hi, Kshitij. Welcome and thanks for joining us today. Before we get into the discussion, it would be great if you could briefly introduce yourself and share a little about your journey so far, how you ended up working in pharmaceutical industry.
So thank you, Dimanshu, for the opportunity and thank you for inviting me here. I would also like to introduce that my journey when it started, I was into technical production support in the IT, and I probably be one of the earliest alumni of Interacts, if I'm not wrong. So currently, I'm a product manager at Merck. I started my career with Accenture like 8 years back. So right now, I have 8+ years of experience. And being a product manager, I work closely with product owners. I have spent most of life in healthcare and CRM industry, especially looking in the healthcare IT. And it's been an interesting journey because I get to now work and manage EMEA, LATAM, APAC regions, work with different vendors, even different companies, collaborate with them, work on the technology, get the architecture done, and all the things that work around product management, including like costing and everything else now. Also, just to add, in this year of experience, I got a chance to work as a consultant, product owner, come support, and now management, but it all has been in pharma industry and life science industry. So just to mention, I have worked with Pfizer, I have worked with Johnson and Johnson. I'm currently working at Merck, and I've worked with Novo Nordisk. I have worked with J&J. Most of the major pharma companies I've worked with now currently in my portfolio.
That's so amazing, Kshitij. So you started your journey back in 2018 with Accenture. And currently, as you said, you're working as a product manager with Merck. So from your experience, what is your observation with pharmaceutical industry evolving with technology today?
Sure. That's a very good question. And I would like to emphasize that pharma is such a technology that is working very rapidly and probably one of the highest growing sectors in the country right now, especially in India. Just to give you an example, if I can deviate a bit. So, you may have heard of a drug called Ozempic. And Ozempic right now is only manufactured by Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly, which are two biggest pharma companies, and they have the patent for it. But in India, we have something called as compulsory licensing, which allows Indian companies to manufacture drugs if the cost is too high. So currently, outside India, the drug price for the same drug is $1,000 per month. But after March, when this patent expires in India, Indian companies can start manufacturing it probably 1/10 of the cost. So India has this law which government protects it, and the manufacturing is growing so rapidly. You would have seen it around COVID that we came up with the two major drugs for like Covaxin, Covishield, and we are growing rapidly in pharma sector. So it give you numbers, it's like 15 to 20% CAGR, whereas manufacturing and retail are like 6 to 8% currently in India. But we lack in digitalization. Like still a lot of pharma companies work majorly in pen and paper and normal software tools, but not specialized tools which they should have. And in my experience, as I've seen closely, that all the bigger companies in pharma have already done this transition into the digitalization. But in India, there's still a lack. And this gap is something that could be filled very quickly and it will be filled very rapidly. So I think pharma is one of the sector where the digitalization is one of the biggest scope currently. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely, Kshitij. So, when I'm interacting with many industry experts, they are talking about the importance of digital transformation with whatever domains that they're coming from.
Hmm.
So, your active interaction with the client on your part, Kshitij, what are some major digital transformation that is happening in pharma companies right now?
Got it. Got it. So, being a BA, you must know that documentation is something we focus a lot on. And which sector has more documentation than pharma? Nothing. I don't think anyone comes closer because pharma is very highly regulated. We have drug development timelines which can range from 10 to 15 years to develop a single drug. Then we have patient engagement, where how a medical rep can work with doctors and doctors work with a patient. And then we have regulatory compliance, like how we can make sure that everything is regulated properly and going through the norms. We have something called a GDPR, Global Data Protection and Regulation, which ensures that everything has to be properly audited. We have GXP compliance, which makes sure a lot of enhanced strictness. So when we talk about digitalization, why it's been a bit slower is because of the complex structure in pharma. It's not that easy to just pitch a software or pitch a tool. But just to give you a reference, we have something called as Viva system, and Viva has come up with the entire suite of applications, which is only around pharma. And they have grown so rapidly that they have become the core of digitalization now for the pharma company, especially on the side of commercial, because
Mhm.
commercial is the backbone of the sales of pharma companies.
Okay, so Kshitij, just to understand this, let's say if someone is watching this discussion that we are having right now, and they also have interest to enter pharma, or a fresher, or maybe someone experienced having no prior experience in pharma, will they be able to enter this new domain? If yes, what can be their start point to this?
Yeah. Uh, so the thing is that pharma domain actually requires a lot of technical knowledge with the functional. So the challenge that I've seen most of the BAs facing is, even though they have a lot of good hands-on on BA technologies and the BA methodologies, they do lack techno-functional side of it, which is like the business knowledge and the technology that is used and the structure of it. So
Yes.
if anyone who's like probably a BA right now, or he or is a like a college new graduate and who wants to turn into the IT side of the pharma, then they have to go through this, which I mean is the techno knowledge as well, like the foundation of as well. Like
Mhm.
you should have the background of pharma, and if you want to be in IT, where the majority of the BAs can go, is a sales side of the pharma, because we have research and clinical trial, regulatory and quality. There, I don't think a BA or someone can do a lot of impact, because it will require B pharma, M pharma, or a MBBS kind of knowledge. But
Sure.
where someone can enter is the commercial and operation side.
Mm.
So you have to be good at the pharma knowledge. Plus, you have to have a hands-on experience of tools like Viva CRM, Viva Vault, Viva Align, and Salesforce Health Cloud, for example, right now. So digitalization at its core, I will say you have to have hands-on plus the BA knowledge. Like BA knowledge will give you an edge, but you need to have all these backgrounds to grow in the IT of pharma.
So, Kshitij, let's try to probe this a little more. You coming from that experience where you have also have understanding on the technical side. You are also a business analyst. You also have experience in product ownership, and currently you are a product manager. Let's say if you are a hiring manager and you have the opportunity for all three profiles, a PA, a product owner, and a product manager. And if someone is coming with no prior experience of pharma domain, which role is going to be the most difficult for that someone to crack without coming from a domain expertise?
I can say all
Mhm.
of this, like product owner and product manager, especially because you are managing product at the end of the day,
Yes.
and you are managing the team, and the team will have technical people, and
Mhm.
team will have such techno-functional BAs. It would be easier for a fresher BA, because freshers are allowed to make mistakes,
Hmm.
and they can cover it up by saying that they don't have prior experience.
Mhm.
And we do have like some openings here and there, where although it's very limited, where we allow freshers to be part of other projects because they give a fresh insight. But apart from that, I think unless and until you have a strong CRM or a strong foundational knowledge of pharma, it's going to be very hard to pitch in.
Let's assume a scenario, Kshitij, that someone is already coming from an experience in Salesforce and then they're trying to enter, because when it comes to Viva CRM, I'm assuming that if someone is having experience on the sales side, a Salesforce side, they'll be able to do well on the Viva as well. So
Sure.
is it going to be a case that if I'm having experience in Salesforce, it will be easy for me to get into the pharma with the Viva expectations and all that is concerned?
Definitely. That's a very good question. And obviously, it's going to be very easy if you
Hmm.
have like a CRM knowledge, especially Salesforce, because Viva right now is built over Salesforce. And it's a very good time to utilize that Salesforce capability, because you may have heard of this great divorce which is happening in the pharma industry, which means that Viva and Salesforce are getting separated now. So Viva have their own platform called as Vault, and they'll be shifting to Vault CRM, and Salesforce is bringing Salesforce Health Cloud.
Hmm.
So if you have Salesforce knowledge, you can very easily integrate to Salesforce Health Cloud. And if you have Viva foundational knowledge or the modules knowledge, even though it shift to Viva Vault, you can easily fit there and in the Salesforce Health Cloud. So being Salesforce knowledge does accelerates you a lot and makes your life very easier to understand the Viva and other foundational or pharma IT. So if you have a CRM background,
Hmm.
especially specifically for Salesforce, that is going to be a lot easier for you.
Okay, I think that has given another dimension to this thought process, Kshitij. Now, let's assume that I'm trying to enter this pharmaceutical domain. Can you recommend me top 5 companies where you have observed they're actively hiring for opportunities across pharma?
There are a lot of companies currently.
Hmm.
Specifically, India, world is seeing India as a hub where they are going to implement their IT now, because we give such a good access to engineers and professionals. We don't have a language barrier, and we have such a good IT infrastructure. So a lot of companies are moving to India now from the globe, and a lot of companies that are hiring recently. Just to give you a few, Eli Lilly, for example. Eli Lilly, if I'm not wrong, has the biggest market capitalization right now in the pharma domain. Then you obviously have Pfizer, you have Johnson and Johnson, you have Merck, and you have Sanofi, Novo Nordisk, for an example, on the product side. But on
Hmm.
the service side, we have companies like Accenture, we have Infosys, TCS, who have these projects from these companies. And Deloitte is there for the consulting. And if you have heard of ZS Associates, for example, their majority of the projects are into pharma industry. So these are the major companies which are hiring as of now currently, and there are like 1,000 plus jobs which are present in the market. It's just we have a skill gap right now in the industry to fill it.
Okay, amazing, Kshitij. I want to understand this from your thought process. Again, I'm assuming that you already have couple of business analysts working under you with the current organization you're working. What is the biggest challenge you're observing working with the business analyst? Because I've observed that most of the BAs, they just follow in a structural certification kind of courses out there, Kshitij. So I would like to understand from your thought process, you as a product manager, what are the challenges that you are facing with the BAs working under you? And what are your expectations with the BAs that your company might hire in the near future?
Sure. So I'll divide it into two parts. First is the BA itself, and I like to really thank PIBA for it, because the kind of practical insight you get in the course is not there very vivid out. And what do I mean by that is because I work with a lot of BAs. They are BAs with multiple years of experience, but they commonly don't know the difference even between like waterfall and agile scrum, for example. And when it comes to documentations, I have seen very poor documentation. So first part will be the quality of BA. Like you really have to be a good BA specifically to work in pharma, because we have regulatory complexity. You may have heard of MTA licenses,
Mm.
licenses, GXP compliances. Then we have such a longer product life cycle, as I said, 10 to 15 years. Documentations have to be on point. Your requirement gathering has to be on point. Your analysis, stakeholder management is very tough in pharma, because the stakeholders come from multiple backgrounds, and everyone, and in reality as well, are like a top priority. So it's
Mm.
very hard to differentiate whom to listen, whom not to listen. There are a lot of conflicts that happen in stakeholder management, and I can see a lot of BAs whom even I have worked with are not at par in those skills. So that is something you definitely need to have. Second thing I have seen is that BAs come with a good functional knowledge, but the background of pharma, as I said earlier as well, it's very important, because
Yes.
otherwise, like just to give an example, like we have something called as consent management, and you can't send any email to any doctor without consent management. And if it's not properly configured, and even if you send like one message to a doctor without the consent, it's going to charge the company thousands of dollars in a lawsuit, if not millions. So
Mm.
GDPR is a very complex
Of
thing in
course.
pharma. So one thing we have to make sure is you have to be a very good BA at your work. You have to have those knowledge and skill sets, plus the background of pharma, how the technology works. At least the outer structure of it is very important.
I think that was a very, very insightful, Kshitij, for someone who's really looking to start their career in be it business analysis, product ownership, product manager. They're pretty clear with what expectations they can have with their hiring managers and, of course, part of the project. Now, Kshitij, let's talk about AI because we are observing a lot of companies are trying to restructure, leveraging AI to the best of its capability. I want to ask this to you. When
Yeah.
it comes to pharma, how do you see AI and digital technologies are going to impact your industry in next couple of years from?
I think pharma is going to be one industry where AI is going to do the biggest impact.
Mm.
And I think I've given the hint earlier when I said a drug development takes 10 to 15 years. So just think about it, because we have such an extensive documentation. People have to manually go through it one by one right now. AI will have such a bigger impact in drug discovery that you can't even imagine. Like drugs, the formulation, the manufacturing, the compliance of it, AI is going to play a very bigger role in it. Then there are digital clinical trials going on right now. Like earlier, you have to have a physical centers, do the remote testing and get the data. Now the world has come together. We are getting a lot of data in the system, but we need AI to do the transformation of the data to form into an information. Advanced analytics, like when I say CRM, like I have a plan for for the medical rep to visit the doctor, but we have a module in our CRM itself called suggestion, where AI is feeding the rep, like, oh, you missed call to that doctor, you missed dropping that sample. These are there in your targets. So we are getting real time feedbacks from AI. Having said that, uh, because data regulation is also a bigger part in pharma, we have to make sure that we are not using any open source AI,
Mm.
because the data can go to the AI servers, and we can only use the AI which are there in the company itself, like the licensing of the company and the server is maintained by the company.
Mm.
So for example, right now we are working with ChatGPT. Obviously, we have Claude and we have DeepSeek with the US servers and our own servers. And we are working through these systems. And I have observed that every AI has different capability. Like Claude is very good in giving structural response. DeepSeek is very good in making process modeling, for example. And ChatGPT is very good in giving the initial analysis of most of the things. So AI definitely is going to play a very bigger role, and I think people should upskill now. If not, like you can't just work around Excel anymore. You can't just do VLOOKUPs anymore. AI is a lot much more faster, and use case is growing, especially in automation. We are using AI to create a lot of reports in our system right now, and we have created a support assistant chatbot with
Mm.
which we can just tell this question or the issue, and chatbot can give you answers like what could be the probable resolutions for it. So definitely, AI is a must to look for.
As we are moving ahead, Kshitij, I can see that you have a lot of subject matter expertise, and which is bringing a lot of curiosity to ask me a lot more question with even more depth and detail with expertise that you're coming from. And I would say, Kshitij, that my observation says not many times the BAs reach out to me for domain expertise, something to do with the pharma, your expertise. So, Kshitij, my question to you: will it be possible for you to conduct a dedicated masterclass for our community? We can go in depth to your subject matter expertise, where you said that it is very important for them to be aware of what technical jargon they have to use, what different tools that we can use. Will there be a possibility that you can conduct maybe close to 1 hour or 90 minutes of session for the community, which they can benefit at their best?
Definitely, Dipanshu. I think after spending this much time and experience in this industry, I can see where are the current gaps.
Hmm.
And I can also see there are a lot of good candidates, but they don't have the depth knowledge of the techno side of it, not just techno, like even the fundamental of it.
Yes.
So I can see we have a very big, extensive alumni network. And as I said, pharma, life science, IT is growing at 15 to 20% CAGR. Manufacturing, retail is at still 6 to 8%.
Yes.
So this is where future lies. And I think this is a very good opportunity to mentor people into this space. So definitely, I think I have done it earlier in past also. But it's very important that we move our approach, towards other people as well who are not part of the industry and bring them in. Definitely, Dipanshu, this is something where I can help it.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Kshitij, for joining us today. I'm very sure the community is going to get benefited a lot with this conversation that we are having. So thanks again, Kshitij. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you, Dipanshu, for having us. Bye.